Hello, my name's Andrea Bishop and I'm the Director of Collections at the National Motor Museum at Bewley, and I'm talking to you from our Collections Centre. Everything that's not on display in the museum is in this building, but it doesn't mean that it's not useful and it's not being used, because we use this stuff all of the time. And one of the really useful ways that we can use the other collections in this building is to research and explore the stories about the cars in the museum. And I wanted to select a very special car, magnificent car actually, our mighty 1920 350 horsepower Sunbeam. That was the car that first travelled at 150 miles an hour, a feat that it achieved back in 1925. So if you're researching something in this building, a really good place to start is our photographic collection and also our reference library. So I can take you here straight away to this beautiful image of the 1920 Sunbeam in the Sunbeam Moorfield Works in Wolverhampton. It was taken in about May or June 1920, and the car is absolutely brand new in that wonderful photo from our photographic library. This car had an aero engine, a really large aero engine. It was a hybrid Sunbeam Manitou engine, and it was a unique adaptation of it, and that'll become important later on. But this 18-litre V12 is an aero engine, and this car was one of the first that sort of popularised the use of these great big aeroplane engines in these competitive cars. And this car was built to challenge the world land speed record back then. And it moved on then, and this early part of its career really took place at Brooklands Race Circuit in Weybridge in Surrey. And first time out, in the 19th of June, I think it was, in 1920, the car blew a front tyre in practice and it crashed through a corrugated iron fence at 80 miles per hour. So all of that excitement and then a very inauspicious start to its career. The car wasn't badly damaged, and Harry Hawker, the driver, didn't suffer too badly either. So that was all good news. And then the car continued not to perform really very well at Brooklands at all, disappointing, inconsistent results. And this programme here is one of those occasions when the car sadly didn't do very well. And it was the Whit Monday race, May the 16th, 1921. And if you look inside this brochure, you'll see the car in there. So again, we're tracing the race history and indeed the misfortunes of the car through our archives. And this particular object I like very much. Is not in the most wonderful condition, as you can see, and quite often in museums we like things in really wonderful condition, but this one's been folded down the centre there. And we've got a couple of these brochures that were donated by the same person, and they're clearly from the same day. And I always think that the person's probably going around Brooklands enjoying the cars, watching the form, and just for convenience they folded the programme, popped it in their pocket, and that's how we receive it. And for me, that takes us immediately to that moment, and I think that's rather wonderful. So this is Ken Elmley Guinness, a famous race driver, behind the wheel of the Sunbeam at Brooklands, and this is really just before the off of taking the car's first world land speed record at a speed of 133.75 miles per hour. This photograph was published in the Autocar magazine, which you'll find in our reference library, and the photograph is in our photographic collection as well. Now, if you look at it, the front wheels are static and they're actually sitting on the timing tape, but the rear wheels, you can't see the spokes, but you can see a bit of smoke. That's because the rear wheels are turning really quickly, and you can almost smell the burning rubber coming off the track. So it's ready for the off on that really historic occasion to take its first record. Malcolm Campbell, well-known record breaker, was attracted to the car, and he borrowed it in 1923, and he raced it along the beach at Saltburn in Yorkshire and also Farnham in Denmark in June that year. And he achieved 2 world land speed records, but they were not recognised because they didn't use the official timing mechanism that they had at Brooklands. They had stopwatches, so those records weren't recognised. But this rather grubby photograph is from our archive collection, and you can see it's annotated by Campbell himself and signed it. And there we see that he did make the car travel at 146.4 miles per hour, which would have been a world record at the time, but it wasn't recognised. The other thing we can see is the car gradually starting to change. So we can see the word Sunbeam on the bonnet there. That's now disappeared, and there's a Union Jack visible there on the scuttle of the car. So Campbell is starting to modify it. So he bought the car in 23, and then in 1924 he totally remodeled it, completely changed it. It was designed by aeronautical engineers, the body changes, and tested in a wind tunnel. And this beautiful photograph here from our photographic collection is the car actually being collected from the coach builders in South Wimbledon, where the changes were made. Now you can see actually the car's got a much longer aerodynamic tail. The cockpit is wider. There's a fairing as well behind and on a headrest, and the springs are faired in, and even the handbrake there has got a sort of aerofoil covering over it. So that really is a moment, literally a snapshot in time when the car changed. Malcolm Campbell, after he'd purchased the car to try some records in earnest, he took it to Pendine in South Wales, and on the 25th of September 1924, he took the first official world land speed record in the Sunbeam, and that was actually the first of his 9 official world land speed records that he achieved with this and other cars. So this is that occasion on the beach at Pendine, with the engineers fettling with the car. And again, this wonderful image, all the people standing around on the beach looking at what's happening. This is in our photographic collection. So on that occasion, the car reached a world land speed of 146.16 miles per hour. And then the next year, Campbell had made some more modifications to the car. There's a longer cowl on the radiator. I don't know if you can see that. And at this time, the car is painted all blue as well. And actually, what I should have pointed out, and you can barely see it on this photograph, but it is there, I promise. The words "The Bluebird" are crudely painted on the radiator cowl there. So this wasn't Campbell's first Bluebird, but it certainly was one of the first. So this image here is the car returned to Pendine, 21st of July 2025, when it broke through the 150 mile per hour barrier. So the first car to travel more than 150 miles per hour. So if we leave the photographic collection for a minute and we go to our object collection, you see these beautiful models we've got of the car. Obviously, we've got 2 different scales here, but we'll not worry about that. So this model shows the car in its sort of 1922 Brooklands racing get-up. And then this model shows the car in its 1924 form with Campbell. And actually, the car today, as it sits in the museum, approximates this form more than any other. And then this is the 1925 version of the car with this longer cowl and some other changes as well. Campbell was always modifying the car to make it faster and faster. And then later that year, in 1925, Campbell sold the car. And we know that because we have a letter handwritten by him in our wonderful motoring archive. So this tells us that the car was sold in 1925 for £250 to a fellow in Southport. Now, we know from other documents that we have in the archive here that actually the price was augmented as well with the chap's 1914 4.5 litre Grand Prix Vauxhall. And we know the name of the person as well. So we can trace the histories of these cars so well in the magnificent collections that we've got in our collection centre. So this car then, this car is a very dramatic one. It's sort of lived many lives, if I can refer to it like that. And it's a story of changes in ownership, changes in the body shape, and the modification that went along with that. It was lost, then it was found. It developed a tail temporarily, and then that was removed. And then it was latterly restored to a cosmetic restoration that was after it had fallen into dereliction. It wasn't a runner, but it was cosmetically restored to the way it looked in the very early 20s. So by now, Where in the 1950s, the car is not a runner, and it looks like this again. In 1957, the late Edward Lord Montagu purchased the car and brought it to Beaulieu. And so at that time, the car was a non-runner. So the workshops at Beaulieu made the car run. Lord Montagu restored it, and then he put it on display in his motor museum. And this is a picture of Edward Lord Montagu in the car in 1959. That, of course, is the Montagu Motor Museum, the precursor to the independent National Motor Museum that's run by a charitable trust and was opened in 1972. And that's the museum that we all know and love today, of course. So Lord Montagu campaigned the car a little. He demonstrated it, really, at motoring events for historic cars in the early 1960s. And the last time out, as it were, was at the Festival of Motoring at Goodwood on the 14th of July 1962. And we have this lovely programme, again, in our reference library, so we can see that the car was there. We've also got running film of that occasion as well, and some photographs. And on that occasion, Edward Lord Montagu, ran the car on 3 laps to demonstrate. And actually, Donald Campbell, we see here, he ran it on a lap of honour. Donald is Malcolm's son, and there he is with his father's old Sunbeam. And of course, his car there, CN7 Bluebird, the 1964 record breaker, which you can see today in the Motor Museum. That's Donald's car, and that chap there is Leo Villa, one of the famous engineers. So the story of the car then continues at Beaulieu, and in 1987, the workshops of the National Motor Museum changed the car again, and this time they returned it to looking in this sort of Campbell 1924 guise. That's how you see it today. The car was then made to operate again, not having run really since 1962 in the hands of Edward Lord Montagu. In 1993, we ran the car at the grounds at Beaulieu, and unfortunately the engine suffered some severe damage, and you'll remember that I said it was a unique engine, and so it took a very long time to repair. But through the expertise and the perseverance of our brilliant engineers here at the Motor Museum, this labour of love ensued for the 20 years, and by 2014, the car was operational again, and that was a magnificent achievement. And I'd like to leave you with this film that we took when we returned the Sunbeam to Pendine on the 21st of July 2015, when we ran the car along the sand after it had been made whole again.